Hey, what's going on there, everybody? This is your math helper for lesson 7 on module 4, and today we're talking about how to multiply any whole number by a fraction. And we're going to use tape diagrams. Sweet. That sounds like you're going to be able to do like amazing things. You're going to be able to multiply any whole number by a fraction. And ultimately, that's what we're getting at. When we do, we've been using two models. One, we had models where we had, we had little flippers that we were working here in classroom. You flip them over to show which one, what fraction of the set you're talking about. And then the last lesson we had, we used, big dots. And remember these guys, split them up into groups to show what fraction we were talking about. Well, today we're going to use a tape diagram to make that all happen, and it's going to make sense. It's going to be really easy. So right away we're going to start off by doing, we want to find 3/5 of 35. Okay, and now when you see this, basically we're saying 3/5 of this whole, and so we can always just draw a tape diagram to show the whole. So the whole is what we have. The whole is what we're starting with. This whole happens to be 35. And the denominator over here, this denominator is going to be what's going to tell us how many to break this up into. It's going to tell us, it's going to label that unit for us. It's going to tell us we want fifths. We want 5 of these. So I'm doing 5. I'm going to draw 4 lines. So 1, 2, 3. And so now I have 5. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that would be my fifths. And this question is saying our numerator here is not telling us that we want to show 3 of those. We want to know what 3 is. That's this right here. This is going to be 3/5. So I have 1/5 and 1/5 and 1/5 and 1/5 and 1/5, and this would be 3 of those. So in order to find out what that is, I just need to find out what one of them is. I just want to find out just what this one is right here. And so in order to find out what one of those is, if I have 35 of those, 35 is my whole, and I'm splitting up into fifths. I just want to know what 1/5 is. I'm going to divide it by 5. That's what I've done when I split it up into fifths. Here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I divided this 35 by 5. And so if I do that, if I do 35 divided by 5, and I can count by 5s to get to there, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. If you know your math facts or your division facts, that's a pretty easy one. Our answer is 7. And so if this one is 7, then that also tells me that this one is 7, and this one is 7, and also this one and this one is 7. At least it should be, and I can double check that to make sure that does end up being my whole of 35, 7, 14, 21, 28, 35. So since that's what that is, now I'm only actually looking to find these right here. I only want these 3. So while I have my 1 unit of 7, I want to have actually 3 of them. So in order to find out what 3 groups of 7 are, or 3 groups of 7 is 3 times 7, my answer would be 21. So when I have this, 3/5 of 35 equals 21, right here, 7, 14, 21. Okay. Okay. So we, sorry about that. Just got myself distracted. So here's your problem. It says Aurelia buys 2 dozen roses. Of these roses, 3/4 are red, and the rest are white. How many white roses did she buy? Excellent. Well, so what do we know in this problem? We know we have 2 dozen. We know we're dealing with 3/4, and 3/4 are red. Okay. And I know that the rest are going to be white. How many roses are white? So this is what I'm really trying to find out here. I have 2 dozen roses. 2 dozen is, 1 dozen is 12, so 2 dozen would be 2, that would be 24. So I have 24 roses. Let's draw ourselves a tape diagram, because we can, and we should. And I have my whole, this is what the whole tape diagram represents, is my 2 dozen roses. That's 24 red roses. And, sorry, 24 roses, because only 3/4 are red. So I have my 24 roses, and I know by looking at this 3/4, I know I have my denominator here as a 4, and that tells me that's what we're naming this fraction. So I'm going to split that up. I have my 24, I divided it by 4 because I'm dealing with fourths on this. And 3/4 of them are red. So 3 out of the 4 are red, and 1 would be white. And I want to find out what's the white? Okay, well, 24ths, and I have divided the 24ths up into 4, right? So if I'm doing a division problem here, which I am, because I'm dividing this 24 by 4 groups to find out how much one group is. And 24 divided by 4, well, we can count by 4s, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. I also know that 6 times 4 is 24. So 6 is my answer. So each one of these is 6. We have 6 red, 6 red, 6 red, and 6 white. So how many white roses did she buy? She bought 6 white roses. How many red roses would that be? How many is my 3/4? That would be however many here are 1, 2, 3. That would be these ones here. That would be 6, 12. That would be 18. So I have 18 red roses, and I have 6 white roses. Okay, very good. Let me set up the next problem for us. Okay, here's our problem. Rosie had 17 yards. Sorry, that's not good job. She has 17 yards. Rosie had 17 yards of fabric. She used 1/3 of it to make a quilt. How many yards of fabric did Rosie use for the quilt? Cool. A yard of fabric. It's like a yard by yard. If my mom is a quilter, so I know this. But when you go to like a fabric store, you can even go to like Walmart or whatever. It's like a big roll of fabric, and you pull it off, and there's yards. So she has 17 total yards. That's the length of fabric. Okay. So what do we know? We know we have these 17 yards of fabric. We know we have 1/3 makes a quilt, and we want to know how many yards did use for one quilt. Okay, so let's draw ourselves something here. Okay, this is going to be our tape diagram. We're going to use this to label our hole. And our hole here is 17 yards. So I have 17 yards. It's my 17. And I know I have a fraction here of 1/3. And I know my denominator is 3. So that tells me that's how many we're dividing this up into. It's thirds. And I want to find out what 1/3 is. This is what I want to find out. So what I need to do is I need to divide. I have my 17. And I need to divide it by 3. Now, this is not a readily apparent number. This isn't a math fact. This isn't something that jumps out. So we're going to need to do this with a standard algorithm. It'll all become easy soon enough. 17 divided by 3. 3 can't go into 1, but 3 can go into 17. 5 times? 5, 10, that would be 15. Yeah, that sounds good. 5. I guessed and checked my guess. 5. And I have 2 left over. And so now I have 2 divided by 3. So I'm going to put that up here. I have 2 divided by 3. So I have 5 and 2/3. Awesome. 5 and 2/3. And this would be 5 and 2/3. And this would be 5 and 2/3. Excellent. So how many yards of fabric did Rosie use? Rosie used 5 and 2/3 yards of fabric. Fantastic. Okay. Let's do another one. Well, let me set up the problem. Okay, excellent. We have a teddy bear problem here. Tiffany spent 4/7 of her money on a teddy bear. The teddy bear cost $24. How much money did she have at first? So, a couple things I know. I know there's 4/7 of the money got spent on the teddy bear. Teddy bear cost $24, but that's not all that she had. How much does she have at first? That's what we're looking for. So in this case, we don't really know how much money she had at first. That's what we're trying to figure out. What we do know is we know that it's split up into sevenths. So I'm going to draw 6 lines to make that happen. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's sevenths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 4 of them is what we're looking at. 4/7 is what she spent her money on this teddy bear. Okay. And sorry, and I shouldn't have done a question mark there because we do know what that is. 4/7 of that, what we used here, this right here, this was $24. Excellent. So this right here is $24. So that's what we know, and we need to fill in the gaps on the rest of them. If I know that 24 here is split up into 4s, if I can figure out what one of these is, then I can figure out what the whole thing is. Knowing one allows me to know the whole thing. So let's figure out what one of these is. We're going to do 24, and we're going to divide it by 1, 2, 3, 4 by 4. And we know 24 divided by 4 is 6. And so this is 6, and this is 6, and this is 6, and this is 6, and these are also 6s. And if I double check that, was 6, 12, 18, 24, that's true. So now in order for me to find the whole thing, I need to do 6. I'm going to multiply it by how many I have here, by my denominator is 7, because I have 7 of them. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm going to do 6 multiplied by 7. 6 multiplied by 7 is 42. So my answer is, how much money did she have up first? She had $42. Excellent. I think we're doing really good on this. We're doing really good on this. So we have one more problem. Oh, was that it? Oh, that was it. Man, I was ready to do another one. So I guess here's the gist of it. When we have problems like this, it's important for us to figure out, like in this one, what we do have, what we do know. It's important for us to fill out our tape diagram, try and understand the different parts, split it up using our denominator, whatever denominator that may be, to make sure we have the right number of pieces, and try and use the clues of what we have to figure out what the problem, what our answer is. So keep up the good work. You guys are rocking it out. Let's see. Let's give a keyword today. Today's keyword is dinosaur. Let me know you watched the video by telling me dinosaur. Don't tell anybody else though. And I'll hook you up. All right? Okay. Thanks a bunch, guys. Have a great evening, afternoon, morning, whenever you're watching this, and post comments, questions. I'll catch you later. Bye.